Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for your patience hanging out in the waiting room there for a couple of minutes. We just needed to run a little test on the screens, and I think we're good to go. I'm Jody Haney. I'll be hosting, moderating, I guess, the meeting tonight, and we have Christi Buffington and a colleague, Holli Kohl, who will be joining us via taped video. And the presentation tonight is on GLOBE Observer Landcover App, investigating changes in fresh water related to timing of ice freeze up and ice safety. Maybe I got that close to being right. I don't know, Christi. You'll let us know.
I thought it was great.
Okay, great. Without further ado, Christi, take it away.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for taking time off on your afternoon. And I know that some people let me know that this is recorded. I see that it's recorded now, and they're very excited to see the recording because it's 3 o'clock in Alaska right now in the afternoon, and teachers are still with their students. So I'm going to go ahead and share 2 presentations today. And this is the first one. Okay, so welcome again, and thank you for coming. I am Christi Buffington. I am a team member with the Fresh Eyes on Ice project. I am a GLOBE trainer and also a teacher at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I'm presenting today with Holli Kohl, who is the GLOBE Observer Coordinator, and she works with NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Holli couldn't be here today, so she went ahead and pre-recorded her presentation. And for those moderating, I am seeing people in the waiting room. If you can, yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jody. Thanks for moderating today. So since I'm an educator, I like to start with what makes me very excited about GLOBE, and that is the students. So on the left, you can see 2 GLOBE alumni. In the back is Maggie House, and she is a University of Alaska Fairbanks student, and I think Maggie's going to try to come today. And in the front, you see Susan Glade, and she has already graduated. And what they are doing is they are using GLOBE Observer Landcover to observe seasonal changes in freshwater systems and save lives. You see the steep bank there. What they were doing is they're pulling a sled full of equipment, an ice auger, a meter stick to measure snowpack depth, ice thickness, and flow under the ice. And the lives that these students were trying to save were juvenile Chinook salmon from the Yukon River. So across Alaska and really anywhere there is water, there are changes, and we can use GLOBE Observer to observe those changes. Today's presentation really focuses on where people are using GLOBE Observer Landcover to study changes in freshwater ice and who is doing this and whose land it is on. Then really what's motivating us to do this, the why, how we're doing it, that is with Holli Kohl, and I will share her presentation. And I'm also sharing what we have found is working with students. First of all, I moved my computer around so you can see the beautiful snow behind us. This is the Trothyeta campus where I work, which is the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I am on the lands of the traditional lands and the waters of the Dene people of the lower Tanana River. And this would be a great time for you to introduce yourselves in the chat. It's wonderful to hear where people are from. And I see many of you from Alaska joining today and who are part of Fresh Eyes on Ice as well. So please introduce yourself in the chat. If you know whose lands that you are on, please share that as well. And there is a link that is very helpful to look up if you don't know whose lands you are on. And I just really want to point out that this is where people live, their ancestors live, non-human ancestors, such as the salmon, live and migrate in rivers, and people across Alaska use rivers during the winter and in the summer to move around the beautiful place where we live. So the Fresh Eyes on Ice project is this amazing network of observers and researchers who are passionate about keeping alive that knowledge about being safe on the ice. It's really focused on safety and building an observing network that we can really use to keep people safe and let people know where it is safe to travel, and then also just observe how ice is changing with climate change. So these partners are funded by both NASA and National Science Foundation, and we have many different organizations that are getting information in real time from GLOBE Observer Landcover to people who can use that information to inform winter travel. And the why is really focused on these ice conditions that are changing. It's passing on knowledge that has been for millennia shared, people telling people where it's safe to travel, and now having new generations have those fresh eyes on ice to see changes that might not, a safe passage might not be safe anymore. That how people have moved and traveled might not be safe anymore. I'll share a little bit of a personal story. On the left, you can see the Yukon River and a tributary to the Yukon River. At the top, there is a village. And I just imagine when I was flying over, how to get across that river. Would people share a safe way to get across? And in this tributary, you can see some open channels. And it made me think about my kids. And on the right, you see my son crossing some overflow. And I was stopped and made sure that he could get across safely. But I was really nervous as a mother, wondering, gosh, how is he going to learn how to communicate these conditions with other people and also learn from himself? And what's very cool about this project is that the data that people are collecting from their eyes on changes that they're observing on freshwater ice is research, and it is involving their communities. I also want to give a shout out to Dr. Elena Sparrow, because this concept of observing ice and freshwater ice phenology has been talked about in GLOBE before. And this is a presentation that she was part of, I think back in 2007, when GLOBE was considering adding ice as an actual phenology protocol. So waterways are changing everywhere. It's great to observe these changes throughout the whole year. And I invite you to write in the chat what changes that you have noticed in a local waterway, a local stream or lake or river. While you're writing in the chat, I want to share what you're looking at here. This is called Cripple Creek. It's a place right here in Fairbanks. And in the front, there is a technician working with Tanana Chiefs Conference. There's also a wounded warrior volunteer. There's a first generation graduate student. And then this is the site of Maggie House, her undergraduate research. And this creek has been put back in its original channel. It had been diverted for 86 years because of mining. And there's culvert here allows fish to migrate. So getting out in the fall, looking at the culvert, using GLOBE Observer to observe this. And then here's what it looked like. That's with Maggie and Susan looking at this culvert in the winter as it was freezing up. And you can notice that the vegetation is starting to fill in. Some of the rocks have been moving. It's really excellent to observe these seasonal changes, like these alumna have done. So I'll stop sharing and look at the chat here for some of the things that you have written. Hi, Bruce and Katie and Matthew here in Alaska. Hi, Tori. I'm seeing the slough, Katie. Used to have safe ice, probably going ice skating by Thanksgiving, and that's changing. More extremes, Jennifer. Yep, Jen. Flooding, for sure. That could be something people observe with GLOBE Observer. Jody, the Maumee River. Lots of pollution. Nitrogen and phosphorus loading from runoff. Yeah, so these are all, Bruce, thank you. The Nebesna River by Northway Village. So now I want to show the how. Thank you for sharing your observations and kind of where you might be using, you might want to use GLOBE Observer. And now I want to show the presentation on the how to do it with GLOBE Observer. This is Holli Kohl, and she pre-recorded this today, or not today, but last week.
Hi, I'm Holli Kohl. I'm a contractor at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, where I coordinate the engagement of volunteers or citizen scientists in GLOBE through the GLOBE Observer app. I'm sorry I can't join you live today, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to share some tools that can help you use the GLOBE Observer app for your own community science project, and I'll be using Fresh Eyes on Ice as an example. In my presentation today, I'll provide a brief overview of the Landcover tool, which is one of 4 protocols available to untrained volunteers in the GLOBE Observer app. The features I'll be showing you associated with Landcover are also available in the other tools and will be useful to you regardless of which of the protocols you choose to use in your community. I'll show you how communities have used the Landcover tool for their own community science, and I'll tell you about the tools you can use to create a project in your community. The GLOBE Observer Landcover tool is based on the Globe Biosphere Site Definition Protocol, if you're familiar with that. All training to use the tool is in the app, but I'll provide a short overview here. The first step in data collection is getting your date, time, and location, all things the app fills in automatically. If you are online, you will see a map like this with your location and an estimated location accuracy, and that will appear after you click that Landcover button from the home screen. You'll get to this map screen. So looking at the map, if your location accuracy is below 30 meters, and you can see what that is underneath the map, please click that reset button until you have an accuracy lower than 10 meters if possible. Or you can adjust the location yourself. On the next screen, after your date, time, and location, you will be asked about the variable surface conditions. And these are things that change from day to day or seasonally that might affect the observation. Next, you will use the app to photograph the land in 4 cardinal directions and up and down. Focus on the 50 meters closest to you. Imagine standing in the center of a soccer field and looking toward the goal, or about 25 to 30 adult steps. If the compass function isn't working for you, or you've taken photos previously, you can also upload the photos manually from your camera roll. If the date doesn't match the current date, make sure you change that on the first screen. After you take photos, you could be done with the observation. All remaining steps are optional. So I'm going to take a break from the protocol for just a moment to give you a couple of tips about taking photos. If you can avoid including people or text in the photos, please do so. We are very careful with privacy, particularly for children. The photos are tagged with a location, so we don't want to include identifying information, including the image of somebody's face. So as a result, we blur all faces and text in the photos, as you can see here on the screen. Second, since GLOBE is a program that engages students and the photos are available for student research, We also want to make sure photos don't include inappropriate content such as nudity or violence or derogatory language. This has never been a problem for us in the past, but we're still cautious. We screen all photos, and any instances of inappropriate content would be deleted and the volunteer removed from GLOBE. So back to the protocol. After taking photos, you will go to the field notes screen, and you can use this field to enter specific data that is relevant to your project, such as ice on the Yukon River or erosion on the Northeast Bank. And here's where you can start to customize the tool for your own project. So we're currently developing another new function in the app here on this screen that will add the capability to photograph a special feature that isn't in that north, south, east, or west direction. So the user can focus the camera on that feature, say upstream of a river or downstream, and then photograph that special feature. We'll also include a caption field so you can ask people to add whatever extra information you want about the special feature. Once you're finished with the field notes and soon the special photo feature, click Complete Observation to move on. So the final step of the land cover protocol in the GLOBE Observer app is optional. You will be given the opportunity to select land cover types for each photo. You'll be asked if you want to classify the photos immediately or save the data and come back later, and so you have that choice before you get to this screen. If you choose to classify, here's where you'll end up. For those familiar with the GLOBE Biosphere protocol, the land cover types that are presented for you to select align with those used in other GLOBE protocols, the MUC codes. So you'll choose the type of land cover you see in the photo, trees, grass, and then you'll estimate how much of the area in the photo includes that land cover type. Once you're done there, you'll get to the final screen, which is a review screen. You can edit observations by clicking on the pencil, and this is how you add land cover classification data later if you don't do it when you're outside collecting photos. But again, this is optional. You can submit the data without classification. So once you're satisfied with the observation, you click Finish. You'll get to a screen that indicates that you are done and your data are stored on your device. And then you'll see a little number appear on that bar graph icon in the lower left, indicating that you have data waiting to be sent to GLOBE. You can submit the data immediately, or you can close the app and return later, such as when you have a better data connection. Click on the bar graph to get to the screen on the right. So from the home screen, you're going to click on that bar graph. You'll get to the screen on the right where you'll see all the data that you have that has not yet been submitted to GLOBE. And this may include data from multiple protocols. Select the observation you want to send, then click Send to GLOBE. If you have a lot of observations waiting to be sent, I recommend sending them in small batches. The data go into the GLOBE database, which is free and open for anyone to access. You have 3 ways to get the data out of the GLOBE database: through the GLOBE visualization system, through the data access tool, which gives you a CSV file that you can view as a spreadsheet, or through the GLOBE API, which can be used to automate a data pool or get large batches of data. So here's a land cover CSV file that I've opened in Excel. If you have questions about the columns or the data fields, take a look at the GLOBE Data User Guide for definitions. I have a URL here on this slide. So what does GLOBE or NASA do with the data once it's submitted? As I stated before, the data are available for anyone to use in research. We share the science publications based on the data on the GLOBE Observer website, observer.globe.gov. There are also publications on the globe.gov website. The data can also be used to support student research projects such as those submitted to the Regional Science Symposia or the International Virtual Science Symposium. To make the data more usable for research of all kinds, we're working on applying quality flags to all data collected through GLOBE Observer. Cloud data are matched to satellite observations taken at the same time, and we're preparing to match land cover observations to MODIS, Landsat, and Sentinel-1 and 2 satellite data in the near future. And the quality assured data as well as the satellite match data are available under Get Data on GLOBE Observer. The data collected through GLOBE may be useful to you in doing community science. For example, Fresh Eyes on Ice is a project that tracks ice conditions on Arctic rivers to improve warning systems for when the ice is not stable enough for travel. The project engages volunteers in many ways, as you can see there on the left, but one mechanism for data collection is the GLOBE Observer Landcover tool. As you can see on the right, the project provides instructions about how to use the Landcover tool to document ice on rivers or during breakup. So here's the Landcover data collected in Alaska in the last year. As you can see, most of the data points align with Alaska rivers, an indicator that most of the volunteers using GLOBE Observer Landcover are participating in Fresh Eyes on Ice. So we can go in, this is all in the GLOBE visualization system, and we can add the Landcover photos to the map and zoom in a bit on the GLOBE visualization tool, and you can see that the rivers and ice are definitely the focus. If you click on the photos, you can see the other data collected with the observations, such as field notes that will pop up in that box there. Then you can click over to the Photos tab and see the photos for that particular observation, all of the photos. And if you click on any of the small photos inside the box there, you'll get a large photo that will open up so you can see the full image at full resolution. Fresh Eyes is also using the GLOBE API to automatically pull GLOBE Observer data into their own system to make it easier for them to use the data on their end in a timely way. So another project that used the Landcover tool for community research is the Dixie National Forest Repeat Photography Project. And here, staff in the Dixie National Forest had taken a number of photos tagged with the location in 1997. They wanted to go back to each site and photograph each again using GLOBE to show change. And the map shows, the map there on the left shows the data they collected in their 2020 repeat photography project. So they have this 20-year record of change. So based on that Dixie project and the things we learned from Fresh Eyes, we have two new functions that will help you build your own project based on GLOBE Observer. The first is the new community data request function. This function is in pilot right now, and we're getting ready to release it for a phase 2 pilot. So with the data request function, you submit a proposal for a project in a defined region. We review the proposal, and if approved, your project will go into the GLOBE Observer app. Users in your community will see a little bell in the upper right corner indicating that there's a special data request in their region. If they click on the bell, they will see a list of requests near them. So here's the bell when they first open the app, as it has the concentric orange circles to call attention to it. And then every time they open the app after that, while your data request is live, they'll see an orange bell just to tell them, hey, there's something still here. The third screen is the project available in their region. So I'm showing the Fresh Eyes on Ice data request for the Copper River Basin, which was one of our first pilot projects. And by clicking on more in that project listing, the user will get a longer description with more information, a link to a website with more information, and a link to the tool, in this case Landcover, that we want them to use. They will also see a safety warning, since we can't promise that every location in the region is safe for observations, and we want people to be safe. So here's the data we received during that Fresh Eyes pilot project. The project was only open for a very short time, so we didn't get a lot of data, but we do see some data in that Copper River Basin. As I said before, the project includes a link to a website. So if you can see that little tiny URL on the Fresh Eyes project there, it goes over to their project page on the SciStarter platform. But you could also have it go to a project page on the GLOBE Observer site. And the site I'm showing here is the project page for the NASA Moon Trees Quest. And all of these project pages include information like training or additional material that just didn't fit in the app. You can have additional links or photos or training videos, anything that you really feel you need for your community project. So here's the NASA Moon Trees Quest project. We requested that people measure tree heights of moon trees, which are trees that grew from seeds that flew on the Apollo 14 mission. The general data request covered a wide region and asked for observations of all trees of that same species, in this case Douglas fir. To direct people to specific trees, we sent out an in-app message with information about where to find the moon tree. The other tool that is really useful for building community projects in GLOBE is the GLOBE Teams function. You can create a team and invite your community volunteers to join. I'm showing a team created by a corporate volunteer program. Each team gets a page on which you see who is in the team by their ID number in that list there, or their in-app name. You can see which protocols they have used and how many observations each person has collected. You get a sense overall of how your team is performing, and you can click on individual users to get to the data that they have collected. In the data access tool, you can also select school, teacher, partner, team in that menu there under the filters to download the data by a team as a CSV file. So it's an easy way to get the data for your project all in one place. I hope this presentation has given you a few ideas about how you can build on GLOBE Observer to address issues in your own community, just as Fresh Eyes has done. Again, I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm at holly.kohl@nasa.gov. Thank you.
Well, that's so awesome of Holly. She recorded that just for this, and I'm super excited for all of the changes that are coming up with GLOBE Observer. Does anybody have any ideas before I show my wrap-up slides on what you might want to do? Like if you were to submit a proposal to have a data area that is calling for observers.
Well, I'll go. I was thinking about ice breakup. I'm located right on the Maumee River in Ohio, and that river starts in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and runs all the way to Lake Erie. And when the ice breaks up, it's something to see. First of all, just something that you want to experience. So that would be cool to know what's happening and when it's happening. But also, there's a lot of sometimes habitat loss and so forth because the ice, as it moves through, does some damage to the riverbanks. So that would be something to keep an eye on as well. So I think that this would be really useful there.
Yeah, Jody, that would be awesome. And you can absolutely do that. It looks like Katie said that the host you'll have to let Jen or Jody let people unmute. But yeah, Jody, I invite you to do Fresh Eyes on Ice. You don't have to be up in Alaska to use GLOBE Observer to make ice observations. And be a fun way for connecting students in schools too. Yeah, go for it, Katie.
Mike, I would love to see some New York observations too. You guys get ice. Come on, Mike.
It's good calling out Mike.
I know. You too,
think-
Jen. New Hampshire gets plenty of ice.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Come on, Jen.
I think Mike's in an Uber right now. He's there. He's typing. Okay. there he
Yeah,
goes.
Yeah,
Mike
thanks,
said he'll
Mike.
do his best, which would be super. So what I'll do, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up. I'm trying to find my slides. There they are. Okay. Does anybody have any questions here so far?
As you're turning over to the other page, I will say that Holly helped us with this, but our teachers were in the app, the Landcover app, and when you see complete observation, they were afraid to click that because they kept saying, "Well, wait, I'm supposed to do the estimates, the Landcover estimates," and so it wasn't clear that you have to hit complete before you see those. So Holly said in the next update of that app, it will be more clear that they'll say complete the observation, then move on to the optional Landcover estimations. So that's just an FYI if you're using the app, just keep going. It'll show up. And it looks like we have Jennifer with her hand up. So Jennifer.
have a question because I'm kind of new to Globe. I just got trained this summer, and I have a STEM group that I started at my school, and we're middle schoolers, and there are 6th through 8th graders that are in my STEM club. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around how can I have each of those students do measurements? Do they need to log into like their cell phones with my information, or can they, how do we do that?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I have done this with an after-school program before with using Globe Clouds. Do you have access to iPads?
They have Chromebooks. I might be able to request some
Yeah.
iPads.
If you
But
load the Globe Observer app on an iPad, then yes, absolutely. You can use the iPad and you can create a student account. So they do not
okay.
have to log in under your account.
Yeah, I was like,
Um,
how does this work? That's the one part I guess I should have asked during the training, but I was so busy absorbing all the information that I was like, the how-to part didn't really kind of click with me.
I think you're in the same boat with a lot of people. I'm in 5 years now into Globe and I'm still learning how to. But I really do like the student accounts, and Jen just put in the chat the tutorials to create a student account.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. So I love that we're talking about what works with students, because that's the next part of the presentation. And I've got it queued up now to share. All right, so just to recap, I think you heard from Holli's presentation what kind of observations Fresh Eyes on Ice does with students. And it's not all app-based. So they can use the app or not use the app, because you can still go and collect Globe data without the app as well, and then enter it afterwards. So, or enter it on your phone outside, but it can be too cold in Alaska sometime for people want to use their phones. So here are students getting measurements of ice thickness and snowpack depth over the ice. And then there are other ways besides Globe Observer and including Globe Observer to do photos and descriptions of ice conditions. And then what happens to that information? That information doesn't just live somewhere in the cloud. It actually is shared with river users. And Fresh Eyes on Ice does this in multiple ways. There's a social media Facebook group, and it'd be really, sometimes we get people from the lower 48 showing their ice conditions. So absolutely, if you have a Facebook account and you are taking pictures, share those with social media through the group Fresh Eyes on Ice. This is an example. You can see that there's a location, Copper River, a more specific location, Copper Center, Silver Springs. There's a date and some really great notes, like that it was overcast in about 12 degrees. We also learned about the Globe Observer citizen science platform. There are other platforms that we use in Fresh Eyes on Ice as well, such as Siku, which is an Indigenous observing app. There's also another program that the Fresh Eyes on Ice collaborators and scientists, researchers have made, and they can type in data directly into both the website and also take a picture now with the meter stick for the snowpack depth and for the ice depth as well, and it'll collect that data. And then, and Katie, feel free to fill in what Alan Bondura has made for that application. And then we also have National Weather Service maps using the data directly from Fresh Eyes on Ice for its Alaska rivers and lakes ice thickness map. And keep in mind that Alaska has 2 National Weather Service main offices. These places, these offices cover areas just as big as half or more of the United States, which has multiple National Weather Service offices. So the more people who can get out and share information, the more information we have to make decisions to be safe. Also, very important is expecting what's going to happen upon breakup. We heard from Jennifer that, excuse me, I'm remembering names here. So Jennifer, yeah, Jennifer Podrosky, you mentioned, or maybe along the Maumee River, maybe it was you, Jody, mentioning erosion, and I'm sorry that I'm blanking who mentioned the erosion, but
I know Jody mentioned, and I mentioned, and in my text in the chat about erosion, they actually had to close a bridge off the Pasquotank River.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because that's all really important information. I'm sorry, this keeps flipping. That if a bridge is closed, you want to know about that bridge being closed. This here is a map of village flood potential, so people can start preparing for floods. And this is where winter ice data is useful for predicting potential breakup conditions that may lead to ice dams and flooding. So what works? You know, this map shows the community monitoring teams who are K through 12 students and undergraduate students. Maggie House and Susan Glade were part of my undergraduate group helping with a community monitoring team. And these teams, the educators meet monthly. We have like a professional development session. And there's training. Katie Spellman and others on the team made these amazing lesson plans. There's videos, there's support from the Fresh Eyes on Ice group, but all of it started with local knowledge, with people like Bruce and others across the Alaska sharing what they think are the priorities in a very wonderful in-depth survey, which was the Fresh Eyes on Ice needs assessment. So
I hope this presentation has given you a few.
I didn't mean for her to start talking again, but thank you, Holly. And at this point, here is that little section of river from that picture. When I was flying over the Yukon River, you can see the open leads here that I would hope that if my son were snow machining or if I were out there, that we would know about that, like the shelf right here and falling off. That leads us to wonder and maybe potentially leads us to think about some questions. So if there are any questions, I put my email in here as well, but it seems like it did not save yet. I'll write my email in the chat and I am all ears for what you think you might use this for, or what if you had questions about what works for students. And thank you for everybody staying 40 minutes on a late night and afternoon.
I just want to highlight some of the cool things, like, you know, with GLOBE, we're collecting all this data with students and we say, yeah, NASA's going to use it. And like, you know, maybe someday, often, you know, unless it's a campaign that's got a scientist that has a specific use of the data, right? We say NASA's going to use it someday, or scientists will use it someday, and we're contributing to this big thing. And you know, we know that students will use the data. And in this project, it's like real-time use of the data. You know, like the GLOBE Observer app is linked directly to the forecasters in Alaska, but also to the forecasters in the lower 48. All of the national river forecast centers get the GLOBE Observer data now if it's tagged with river ice in the comments, and they have it automatically populated on their daily maps, which is pretty dang cool for GLOBE. And we can convincingly say, yes, you students, your photos are going to be used to help safety, you know. So I think that's cool. Matthew Scragg did a GLOBE Observer training for this in one of our small communities. Any do you have any thoughts from that training on like what worked well for getting people out to observe? Or yeah, Bruce is got his camera on. What'd you think of Bruce?
Okay, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I was just gonna say, right now I'm just a little bit, I've been with them for one season now with Fresh Eyes on Ice, and been kind of leaning towards the, flying my drone and get aerial photos, but I've been getting a little bit into the globe, and I think I'm gonna try to use it more this season and get more familiar with it. So this is really great to, watch this and get more familiar with it. And I think one of the good things about it is, being offline. A lot of rural areas, you don't really have a really good Wi-Fi or internet service. So especially if you're way out there, where there's no signal. So it's good. I think it's going to be great, and kind of excited to see what people, make some observations of, and hoping the young kids will get into it, their phones, and use it, because there's a lot of, with the ice safety, and a lot of people out there, Alaska Natives, when they go out hunting, or we say looking around, or even trapping, sometimes you have to cross the ice, and it's good to know if that ice is, good to cross, or, figure out ways of, learning different types of ice safety is going to be important too, with the changing climate, and this year being El Nino too. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for these points. I think about how easy it is to pull up the map of Globe Observer observations. And I love that makes the students, see what they did. Like they see their feet when they take the downward picture. And we've also used this in a workshop with the question formulation technique, and pulled ice photos from different places. And the students came up with amazing questions about that place when they didn't live in that place, but they learned about the cultures, they learned about the place. This was with Utqiagvik in pictures from students who were down in Juneau and who weren't used to that kind of ice. That was really neat. And then one thing, and I'll get to you, Jen, in a sec here, when Bruce was saying offline, Jennifer, that's a really good point. You don't need to send the data to Globe with an iPad, say if you're outside, or if there's really poor connection to the mobile data or Wi-Fi when you're somewhere rural. You can take those observations, and then when you get back to some place with Wi-Fi or mobile data, then you can send those observations up to Globe. Yeah, Jen.
I have a very practical question that I would love my colleagues from Alaska who are in the cold more like longer periods of time of the year. Because when I was up there collecting data, I noticed that my phone died a lot quicker because of the cold. So I was wondering if you had any practical advice for keeping that phone going longer so I could collect data when I'm in a cold environment, because I don't have to worry about it as much as maybe you do. Because New Hampshire has a little bit warmer in our winter and a shorter winter. So any advice about that part?
I led a workshop last night doing a training, and it was 27 degrees. We already have lots of snow, and some ice is forming on our river here. And every single teacher that was there, there's about 15 teachers there, and they were like, "This is brutal. Our fingers are numb." So the phones did okay. It was the fingers that were the problem. So I think that they have like screen touch gloves, and maybe we should put that in our kits. Like those gloves that have screen touch, sensitivity or whatever. I don't know.
I
Any
want to add to that.
Yeah, Matthew, what do you got some ideas?
When I'm out and it's like -20, -30, and it really does kill your phone in a few minutes, I put it in a pocket close to my body with a hand warmer, and not
That's
keeping
good
it out
idea.
too long. It does the trick.
A great idea.
And that's what we do too when we go snow machining. If we have either our phone or a different camera, we'll put it in someplace with a hand warmer. And I want to point out, you can still take these photos and manually submit your observations as well through GLOBE. And if you're part of Fresh Eyes on Ice, you can do it on Fresh Eyes on Ice website as well. So that's what we talked about 2 weeks ago with Cheryl Williams and her students with Green Up or Green Down. It used to be that she would encourage students to use their phones, and then now it's kind of discouraged for students to use their phones. So she's going back to the paper system and then having students take photos and then manually upload those photos. So I like that GLOBE gives options and Fresh Eyes on Ice gives options.
Yeah, I do too. I was thinking about the special features, that you can take pictures of special features, and that's coming to the Landcover app. I think that's really going to be very cool. And I'm wondering if you've had any thoughts with Fresh Eyes on Ice of things like fishing holes, like, right, if people are doing ice fishing, would they maybe, because it's going to be geo-reference, saying, hey, this is and I know there's two sides of this. There's a good side of saying, hey, this is where the fish are, but the bad side is, hey, this is where the fish are. So, but I'm wondering if there's some other uses that you've discussed, something like that, or other uses now that special features are coming in, that it's going to give you a little bit more precision in documenting what's happening out there.
I think that it's up to the user, right? That's the other good thing about GLOBE, is that with GLOBE Observer, that it blocks out people's faces. And if you don't want to show that it's a fishing hole, that it's your fishing hole, then you probably won't take the downward picture with the fish laying across the ice. But I have seen some with Fresh Eyes on Ice where people are showing, what their harvest and what the land and water is provided. But that's a really good point. Like, I think it'd be great for those kids fishing days. In most communities, I used to live in Wisconsin and in Montana, and then now Alaska, we always had kids ice fishing days. Wouldn't that be a fun day to get out and measure ice? And Katie, I'm creating more work for us. Sorry.
We had one last year.
You did. Good. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, these are great ideas.
And the Maumee River, I'm going to go back to the Maumee. We have a walleye run, and people come from, they say 10,000 people come to the walleye run every year. I don't know if that number is real, but that's what our fish and tackle company reports. And I think it'd be really cool to help also identify spots of, community fishing. I know sometimes there's competitive fishing, but a little bit more collaborative spirit of, hey, this is where, if you're going to come for the walleye run, these are the spots. So I'm thinking of different uses of the tool that might be really kind of cool.
I'm super excited for my undergraduate students this semester who are using it for documenting erosion. So they are standing at, near the bank. Their northeast southwest pictures may or may not capture the bank, but that's changing in GLOBE Observer, that there can be special feature pictures that they can do. But then they can go back to that location and see how that erosion has changed over time. And it's also really useful for restoration. And that's part of the work that I do, is trying to, bring salmon back to this tributary that was affected by mining here in Fairbanks, and documenting that. And some of our students are the first ones to ever get data. I put in the chat a story that was just published last week by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service about Susan and Maggie. But GLOBE got them started. And it was because Katie and Elena told me, hey, you should do, your students do GLOBE. And it's been wonderful to open doors for them and very accessible. Well, thanks for, Jennifer, thanks. You doing the paper on site and having the students take pics with their photos. Yeah, I'm glad that you got some good ideas. Tori, the special features, I agree. Sometimes north, south, east, and west don't really line up. And Tori's done a lot with salmon in the classroom. So having GLOBE be part of an ice fishing day, sounds like you do that also. That's awesome. Well, Jody, this is a good crew.
It really has been a wonderful hour. Every time I'm sitting in on a water cooler, I learn new things about GLOBE, and I've been part of GLOBE. Many of you have been around for a long while, but you know, since the late 90s. So this is great when you come to a water cooler and learn something new. It's certainly worthwhile. And Jennifer Podrasky, great that you're involved with GLOBE. Stay with us. One of these days you'll be presenting in a water cooler. I don't know how soon that'll be, but we'd love to have you stay with us and tell us about what you're doing and teach us some things too, because that's certainly going to happen along the way. I think we want to say thank you to Christi, and Christi, please pass that on to Holli. And it was really a wonderful presentation. I know we're all finding high interest and high value and are excited to figure out how we can join you in your efforts.